friends. Hello, hi, how are you? I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. Hello. So today's video, we are talking about some drama. I don't really want to talk about the drama aspect of it because frankly, I'm kind of just like over it. I feel like I said my piece and that's how I feel. I also feel like if you don't know anything about this whole Gabbie Hanna situation, I'll link my video on the situation down below, and I'll also link a couple of other videos that I think kind of summarize everything really well. Basically, a few months ago, Gabbie Hanna, who's a very popular YouTuber, got into a bunch of drama with Trisha Paytas, who is also a popular YouTuber, and Jessie Smiles, who is also a popular YouTuber. I think the stuff with Trisha Paytas was kind of the kickoff point for everything, and I think then the Jessie Smiles stuff was kind of like the nail in the coffin, if you will, of kind of her whole gig. Jessie basically came out with a video saying a lot of different things about Gabbie, but first of all, the biggest, in my opinion, that really left a bad taste in my mouth, how Gabbie had actually kind of crap talked her to a fan of both of theirs. They had a mutual fan. Gabbie went into that fan's DMs and was saying some really inappropriate stuff about Jessie, saying she like wasn't a good person, saying that like she had just talked to her recently and she didn't know why she was suddenly going out against her, saying she was confused about why a certain rumor had been started that Gabbie had collaborated with somebody who had a Jessie, but she wasn't saying this to like a mutual friend even. She was saying this to a fan. So she was talking Jessie to a fan, and that was something that I personally had the biggest issue with. And Gabbie, this entire time that whole video came out, a lot of people talked about it. I made a video about it because I was like, this is nuts. And I think over the past 7 months, the Gabbie has been getting consistently more and more, I don't necessarily want to say hate, but there definitely has been like unnecessary hate sent her way. But I also think people are just kind of over it with her. I think she is actually seeing the ramifications of what happened 7 months ago. Gabbie basically just came out with a video pretty recently, and the reason she said she was making the video was because Jessie had brought her up in a video again, and she felt like she was just sick of getting used for views. Jessie basically did a video talking about assumptions or questions from her fans, like a Q&A video, and one of the questions was about Gabbie, kind of just like, has she reached out? And that was all Jessie said, was like, no, but I didn't think she would. But Gabbie, I guess, took that as, this is, I need to talk about this because she won't stop talking about it. Personally, I don't think that's true. I don't think that she was so bothered by Jessie putting her name in a thumbnail along with a bunch of other things in a very generic Q&A style thing. Had Jessie made a whole second video like rehashing things, I probably would have understood that. I think the main reason she wanted to finally make the video was because her views were down, and that's not to say like, oh, she wanted drama to bring her views up. I think her views were down because she was seeing the ramifications of not saying her side of things. You could kind of see that people were sick of the fact that she had not addressed any of it, because there were some really serious allegations brought about, especially the stuff with her DMing the fan. So Gabbie makes this video, and there was a lot of points that she made. Basically, my whole summary of the Gabbie video is like, she had some good points, but I do not think that she was the person who should have been making those points, because she has done the exact things that she was saying other people shouldn't do recently. She talked about in her video how she didn't want to be addressing things publicly because she felt like they should be addressed privately, as she was making a public response, obviously. So it's like right off the bat, it's like, okay, a little hypocritical. But I did see her point and understand her point of, she feels like it's not necessarily a good idea to kind of normalize the idea that somebody's friends could just go online and like expose them for whatever reason. Like, she kind of was saying how she didn't feel like that was necessarily a good precedent to set, even for people who have no following. Like, if you just have friends, you don't necessarily want to normalize them going on Facebook and writing a long post like exposing things about you in your life. And I did agree with her on that, because I did feel, particularly with Alex James, who I am going to talk about, at the time that everything was happening with Gabbie, I did feel like his video was unnecessary, and I did feel like he was just trying to capitalize off of the situation. So I did think think that was a good point on her end of, I do agree that the normalization of people exposing other people for like nothing, just because they might have had a bad experience with them, I agree with that. Like that's something I can get behind that. Unless, obviously, it's something that was like illegal or something really horrible happened that like morally you might want to talk about, but just like friend beef, like yeah, agree. Her and Alex thing, I don't understand why he brought that all to the internet. However, I think it's very ironic that Gabbie was saying she doesn't think that those types of things should be brought to the internet, and she doesn't think all of those things, when she was the one, which she conveniently did leave this out of her video, both of these facts. The only reason Trisha Paytas made a video against her was because Gabbie went on her Instagram stories and put out a hypothetical question of, if you thought a friend was sleeping with someone who had an STI, would you talk about it? Would you tell them? She did this like hypothetical Instagram post, and then posted screenshots of the fight that she was having with Trisha and poorly blurred out Trisha's name, so you could very clearly see that it was Trisha Paytas. That is the only reason that Trisha made that initial video on her. So I think it's a little hypocritical for Gabbie to be like, oh, you shouldn't just run to the internet and like tell people things and bring up old drama, when that is exactly what she did as a catalyst for the entire situation to start. So I do think that was a little bit like, come on. And then the only reason that Jessie Smiles ended up making a video about her and talking about all of this stuff was because Gabbie was DMing a fan of both of theirs, telling her very personal things, claiming she was like on medication. She took medication for mental health, which like totally we should be destigmatizing that, but at the same time, no reason you needed to tell a fan that. And also the way she was talking to the fan about Jessie, I would have been livid. If one of my YouTube friends I found out was DMing a mutual subscriber of ours personal information about me and trying to paint me in a bad light, I would also be pretty freaking pissed. Because the thing about that situation is like, yes, we only have proof that she messaged that one girl, but like, what if she was doing this with multiple different fans and spreading around these rumors and this narrative behind the scenes, behind Jessie's back? So you want to say that you shouldn't be bringing old things up from friends, you shouldn't be doing all of that. That was the whole point of her video. Yet at the same time, the sole reason that both of those videos were made was because of her actions. And I do appreciate the fact, because I want to give credit where credit's due, I appreciate the fact that she did own up to the fact that DMing that fan was wrong. I think it's kind of similar, it's kind of ironic actually, because I mentioned her in my Colleen Ballinger video of being like, I feel like Gabbie Hanna is another person who has this very like warped dynamic with her fans that isn't necessarily the healthiest. I do feel like it's just another example of YouTubers kind of being out of touch and, you know, reaching out to people and saying things that are not appropriate to the appropriate people. It's kind of how it felt with that whole situation. The other point that Gabbie made, especially in regards to Jessie, was she talked about how they had been having good conversation, everything had been fine, and then up until a couple months before the video, she got blocked. Didn't understand why she got blocked. She had no idea why she got blocked, and then all of a sudden there was this video. At one point, she was trying to paint it as like she was nice to Jessie, so she didn't understand why Jessie was like calling her out for all this stuff. Again though, it's kind of, I'm going to talk about this point in a minute, but it does kind of show that like flip-flopping behavior of like, I bet if Jessie made another video explaining why she blocked her, everyone would be like, oh my god, Jessie, you're a queen and Gabbie's a liar. And then Gabbie could make another video about how that's not true, and it would be like, Gabbie, you're a queen and Jessie's a liar. I get that that's like a point, but I didn't see that as like a smoking gun of like, oh, you didn't DM a fan. The whole point of Jessie's video was you DMing this fan and like all of those things. That's what started all of this. So I didn't really understand how her blocking her number months before that happened had anything to do with it, but that's fine. She also did touch on Trisha and everything with Trisha, and frankly, I feel like where Gabbie screwed up, like Gabbie would have had a leg to stand on if Trisha just went off on her for no reason, but considering Gabbie is the one who provoked Trisha into making her initial video, I don't really care. She talks about how she's always been really nice to Trisha. She's always been a good friend. She doesn't care if Trisha doesn't answer her texts. She's still gonna offer like friendship and love and support, and that's great. It doesn't seem like Trisha wanted to really be her friend, which is again fine. Like that's just how life goes sometimes. I felt like the Trisha stuff was definitely more like all of that could have been handled privately like it had been the first time. I feel like if Gabbie had just like accepted that she was mad at her because she told somebody that, then like that's that on that. Like I feel like that again, it's like, it's hard for me with Gabbie because it's like I want to empathize with her points. At the same time, it's like you constantly need like an explanation for everything. You constantly provoke people. You bring things to social media and then get mad when it blows up in your face about it. She also talked about the Alex James situation, which, as I kind of touched on, I agree that like he absolutely just saw an opportunity to like make a video, and that's fine. Like, that's YouTube, I guess. But at the same time, I agreed with her point on that. See, I used to actually watch Gabbie a lot, like a couple years ago when she was friends with Alex James, and I remember their friendship being very kind of like, you know, they'd like prank each other and they'd do crazy stuff, and like they both were very loud, like extra people. And I felt like her point on that, you did all this crazy stuff to me, so it's really hypocritical for you to say that like I did all this stuff to you. It's like they can both just say they did all this stuff. They could have just both not talked about it at all. I'll give her that one. I feel like the Alex James stuff was just absurd. There was no reason for that to be made a video on. And then she also at the end kind of addressed some of her more problematic tweets, and you know, it was just kind of the basic stuff that we've seen from people addressing problematic tweets. But I think the biggest takeaway from this was her relationship with Jessie and her relationship with Trisha. And I, for one, particularly, I went back to Jessie's video and saw kind of this like onslaught of hate being thrown Jessie's way. And I looked at Gabbie's comment section, and so many people were saying, oh, I used to absolutely hate you because of all of this, but now I love you. You're such a queen. You explained it so well. And like, here's my big takeaway from this, because do I think Gabbie was 100% right? No. Do I think she's 100% wrong? No. I think she probably falls somewhere in the middle. And like we've seen with other YouTubers recently, she seems to have an inappropriate relationship with her fans and kind of an inappropriate relationship with the internet in general, where she just feels like she can use the internet as a diary, and that's not necessarily what it's supposed to be used for, especially in terms of fights that you're having with people. I think the bigger takeaway that I want to talk about from this whole situation is the sort of flip-flopping behavior that we've been seeing as far as cancel culture goes. I feel like this kind of precedent started happening when the James Charles Tati situation happened. James lost those 3 million subs, everybody hated him, and then he made his response video, and then everybody flipped back into just loving James. And I feel like since then, even kind of similarly, we've seen this with before when Gabriel Zamora made his whole like 42-minute long My Truth video that kicked off a plethora of My Truth videos in the beauty community. Like, we're kind of seeing this sort of flip-flopping trend of this sole group of people goes and attacks someone viciously, and then the second they're given any reason not to attack them, they flip. And I don't know, I don't think this is like productive or healthy. I think I asked you guys on Twitter, I was like, what do you guys think about cancel culture? What is the opinion? And everyone was like, it's canceled, it's over, we hate cancel culture. And I'm like, okay, like I agree with that. I think what cancel culture started out as was this idea of holding influencers accountable. And honestly, for me, when I started talking about things, it was awareness. You can still support this person, but you should be informed on who you're supporting, especially in like the beauty world and the YouTube world, because by watching somebody, you are directly supporting them monetarily. You're giving them money basically by watching, by buying their merch, by buying their makeup, by buying whatever. You are supporting that person. And I am of the opinion that it's important to be an informed consumer in all ways, in what you buy, in what you watch. I think it's very important to be informed. I've always felt like it's a really good thing because I feel like it helps inform people on situations so they know and they can do what they will with that information, but at least they know. And I also felt like it was a good way to hold people accountable, but I don't know how effective it is in holding people accountable anymore. And I don't think it's even like most people's fault. I think there's a 1%, maybe 2% of the internet that takes all of this stuff just like 1,000 times too far, and then it just becomes completely ineffective. A great example of this would be Jaclyn Hill. She had so much stuff go down. There were so many reasons that she should have been called out for like her makeup, her business tactics, the way she was handling everything with the lipsticks, like all of that. It was totally warranted for people to be like, this is BS what you're doing, and like calling her out on that. But what ended up happening after the fact was now every time she posts a tweet, there's There's hundreds of tweets underneath viciously attacking her because her face got puffy. There's Instagram comments constantly belittling her for everything she does. There's people hating on her because she bought a purse that she said she wasn't gonna buy previously. What I feel like happens, and what I feel like things turn into, is most people that initially call things out are like, I would love for you to, you know, see this and grow from it. I would love for you to see change and grow. And then I feel like there's that 2% that just take it too far, and it ruins the point. And it makes it so people don't feel like they should be held accountable because it's just hate. It's just hate. Because it is, honestly, a lot of it is just hate. So why would they take that seriously? Why would they take that critique seriously? Why would they want to take anything anyone's saying seriously? Because anything anybody is saying that is reasonable, which is most people saying it, is drowned out by this massive amount of unnecessary hate and critiquing of things that aren't actually things that you should be critiquing, like a person's body or weight or hair or makeup. Influencers like Gabbie have picked up on this trend that people are starting to kind of be over canceling. They're over it because they feel like it turns into this unnecessary hate, which it kind of does. But I feel like people like Gabbie have picked up on that. And so now we're seeing these long videos, long form content, like 45-minute videos of people explaining their side. And then everybody flip-flops back to them. And everyone's like, you need to wait for both sides of the story now. And it's like, of course, I think in a lot of situations, it is beneficial to wait for both sides of the story. It is beneficial to wait for a person to respond. Like, for example, the H3 and Keemstar thing just happened, which I think I am going to do a video on, but God, is it so annoying because they're both sucky. But I waited for Keemstar's, both of his responses, because I wanted to have both points to go into my video to talk about it so we could actually like break it apart of what both of them were saying. Other times though, Gabbie didn't really apologize fully and didn't really take ownership for what she said to that fan and the things that she exposed to that fan and the way that she tried to manipulate that fan to turn on Jesse. You see those screenshots and it's like, okay, even if she has her side, even if her side is that she just wanted to talk to somebody and she just wanted to vent to somebody, even if that's her position, I still think that's up. So sometimes I do think it's okay to see something and call it out and be like, hey, whatever your reasoning for that was, that's screwed up. I think her whatever reason she had for posting publicly online initially her beef with Trisha Paytas, whatever her reasoning was, I can still look at that and be like, hey, that's screwed up because you're just starting more rumors. But I think the difference is a lot of people are like, hey, that's screwed up, and then they just kind of leave or don't. You make the decision to continue to support someone or you don't. And I think that's great. That's a holding people accountable culture, and that's what we want. At the end of the day, I think canceling was supposed to start as something that was holding people accountable for their actions and raising awareness about who you were supporting. And it has turned into a bunch of people trying to figure out how they can push somebody so close to the edge that they either want to quit their career or they want to hurt themselves. And that's not something that I think 99% of people condone. I'm pretty positive that if I did a poll, 99% of people would not condone those actions. I think too, this whole mindset of now a week or two or months later, the influencer gets to come back on and give their side. It almost feels a little bit, it's kind of how I'm sorry to be pulling in so many examples, but I think it's really relevant. Like, it kind of reminds me of when Tana Mojo did her big TanaCon apology video a month after the fact. She had so much time to wait to figure out what the public opinion was about her, what the climate was surrounding her, kind of what people would want to hear from her in an apology style video. She had all the time in the world to peruse social media, look at what people were saying about her, and figure out what she could say that would convince people that she was sorry and convince people that things would be better. So her video was her kind of apologizing and saying she wasn't going to throw Michael under the bus, but had very intense undertones of her throwing Michael under the bus, because that's what people thought. People thought it was mostly his fault and she played a small role in it. So she played into that. She centered her entire hour-long video around that. And it feels the same with this Gabbie situation. It almost feels like, you know, if like a jury, I've been watching a lot of true crime on Netflix, but you know when like there's a big trial and the jury jury is hung, and so they have to do a retrial, and the prosecution and the defense, it depending on which one won or didn't, or like wanted to win or didn't, they have such a leg up now because they know what everything the other side is going to say. So they know how to present evidence in a way that is going to work for them. They know how to present evidence in a way that is going to convince the jury, which that's kind of what we are at this point, convince the jury that they are a good person or this person's a bad person. That's kind of how it feels in these situations, is like they take all of this time to garner what public opinion is and then feed into and play into what public opinion of them is. This is going to sound nutty, but I would almost prefer Laura Lee's apology video to some of these heavily scripted and very obviously manipulatively written apology videos, because at least she was honest. Like, it wasn't good and she obviously didn't really care, and it was obviously, you know, her fake crying, but like at least it was an honest response. At least that's how she actually was going to respond to something. At least it's like how she felt in that moment. All of these response videos lately, it's just so calculated. I think it turns into less about saying you're sorry and proving your innocence or whatever, and less about taking accountability for the places you did screw up, because no matter what, how you look at it, Gabbie screwed up in a bunch of ways. She didn't really take accountability for that. She spun the needle back onto the person who made the initial accusation, and it's frustrating to watch, I think. I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to think about this, because it's like, what's the solution to all of this? And I frankly like don't really know, because it's like you're never going to control that 2% of people who want to just be vicious for no reason. You're never going to be able to control it. But it's like, I wish that we could, because I think there's some valid points being made, especially against people like Gabbie, people like Jacqueline, people like Tana, there's Jeffrey, like there's valid points being made, but it gets drowned out because people take it too far. And then it really does become like a toxic hate mob. I hate the word hate mob. I think it's so but it does. It becomes that at a certain point. I'm really interested to see what you guys have to think about this. Do you think everything's like evolving? What do you think of Gabbie's like video where she talked about everything? What do you think about the implications that this whole flip-flopping stuff has on how we're going to see apologies happen in the future? I'm very interested to know what you guys have to say. I love you guys so much. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, or just subscribe, or do neither. Honestly, just so happy you're watching me. Thank you so much for being here. My merch, my social media, and everything I'm wearing on my face will be linked down below, along with a link to register to vote. That's right, you can click on that link, you can register to vote, and you be part of your democracy. It's like a super fun thing you should absolutely do. And if you're not from the United States and that link does not apply to you, please make sure you're staying informed on what's going on, using your voice in a positive way if you can, because the world absolutely needs more of that. I love you guys so much. Please social distance if you can, wear your masks for the love of God, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!